Okay. So what we're looking at here, everybody, is the what I'm thinking of for the new Arcanist Dad Build. What we are looking at for gear, we are looking at Slime Craw with the new Veloth Your Mage's Amulet. That's a new one where like your light attacks and heavy attacks don't matter, but it gives you a whole bunch of extra 15% damage and some minor force. So we swapped that out for the Oaken Soul that we were using. We are using as our two main sets Soul Shine. Soul Shine is going to be on the weapons and the jewelry and the chest piece. The rest of it is going to be Deadly, the Deadly Strike set. Deadly Strike comes out of PvP. Soul Shine comes out of Reapers. So very easy to get. So that's part of our Dad build, easy to acquire in there. So the hardest thing is going to be getting that amulet. But until you do it, if you already have the Oaken Soul from my other builds, you're good to go. So, so for the Arcanist, 1 bar, of course. You actually could do 2 bars because you've got that. So I almost say, like, if you're going to use the amulet, you kind of have a utility bar if you want to throw some fun things on the back. But you really are just using the front bar in here. The skills that I have chosen the Inspired Scholarship. Big thing about this is that it gives you an extra crux so that you only have to do, with my main spammable, you only have to do 2 of these until the beam is ready to go. So Inspired Scholarship, which adds some extra damage onto each one of your ability attacks. I'm going to skip this one for a second. And then using Flail. The Flail, the Stamina Morph, has just recently changed to add a heal. Oh my gosh. I tell you, they made the Dad build better with the Week 4 PTS, which is what I'm on right now. So this is a PTS build, just to remind you in there, this is not the live build. I'll come out with a live build one later when everything is more set in stone. And so the big thing about this one is that it gives us some health back. So you hit this a few times, it hits like a truck, and you get health back. So it's like wonderful, because we needed that. Then we have our Fate Carver. I used the Pragmatic one in here, because the great thing about it, they gave us a shield. Can you believe that? So they gave us a heal and a shield, and it grants interrupt immunity, which is great. I went out into the world and did a couple of world bosses, and I had this going, and they couldn't interrupt me. It was so great, you know? So that, right now I was parsing, and so I threw in the Inner Light within here, and the Inner Light, usually I'll just take, if I just want, if I was using this out in the game, I would just put the heal on instead. So that's kind of the regular heal, the Evolving Room Mend in there. And then, of course, we have the Tide King's Gaze. I picked this one in here. I like this one a little bit better than the other version, so that it lasts a little bit longer, and it hunts the target if one kills. But that one you could go with whatever you'd like. But I like this one a lot. And they did change the animation of this, that it goes directly over your target instead of over your head, so you're kind of looking up, before that. Then, so I had all that done, and then I was just looking to see, hey, can I get a little bit more out of this somehow? And with a dot or something, because that's the one thing with this that's a little bit different from my DK and Frostagon. There's no damage over time, really. It really is disheartening when you have, you think you've killed some, enemy, and they got a sliver of health, and there's no dot on them to speak of, so they don't just tick down as you go and kill something else. I was doing a little bit of Vatshran Hollows with him last night, and that was always, I was just like, I thought I had one of the guys down, and they're still hitting me with stuff, and they had a sliver of health. So I wanted something that gave me a little bit of a dot to it. And I'm like, what's the strongest dot that we can put on this? That's Magicka. And I look for it, and I'm going with Scalding Rune. And I'm like, well, let's see how that works. And so we're actually in the middle of testing it today in here, and it worked out really, really great. And I'll show you some of the numbers from my parse in a second. So that's what I'm running on this right now. So this, could be a little bit of a flex spot. It originally was where I was building up the cruxes with the escalating rune blades in there, but it was one of those things I felt like I didn't need it, and then I kind of like, everything that we do as a Arcanist is like an AoE. So having the flail, which hits like a truck and uses a different resource, so I don't have to worry about being out of resources at all. That's another great thing about this build, is that I don't use any pots at all, and I'm not lacking for any resource gain. It's really amazing. So, yeah. So I felt like the rune blades just weren't doing. I could get a lot more out and a lot quicker too, within that. So yeah. So that takes care of that. Oh, and I forgot to mention, because everything is AoE based, I'm using a lightning staff. The staff, heavy attack, light attack, doesn't matter anyway. And so I'm using the lightning because lightning does give bonuses to AoEs. So why not use it? And it's a kind of a nice, if you were to be out of resources, you could use that for resource gain. But really not necessary in there. I'm putting everything into Magicka. It just balances out really well. If you also noticed on my, everything was, all my enchants were Magicka at this point. I didn't know if I was going to switch over and use stamina stuff, but I didn't really see a need for it. Let's see. And then the final thing for the CP, I put Wrathful Strikes in. I put Man-at-Arms, all right, for direct damage. And then I put Biting and Thaumaturge in. I put both Biting and Thaumaturge. I didn't use Exploiter because I'm not putting down like a wall of elements of anything. So we've got the Thaumaturge that helps out with my dot. We've got the Biting Aura because, like I said, basically everything that we have is AoE. The Man of Arts because the direct damage because we're hitting stuff real hard. And the Wrathful Strikes to bump up our spell damage. I think that's it of the things I need to show. Yeah. And let me show just real quick. We just did this. We got to 77 DPS. Now, hold your horses, hold your horses. It's a dad build, remember. So this is not doing like, using Core Riptide or using all the, Pillar of Nirn or all the stuff that's going to get us into the, into the hundreds of stuff. This is something that's all about, survivability, easy to get, having a good time, everything looks great, and just using one bar. All right. When you add a second bar, you can add a lot more dots and everything like that. And that's how you get those higher parses. So getting a 7, if you can read that because it's a little small, 76.9. Oh my God, always had to be a 6 and a 9 in there. My chat's going to love that. It's 77K, which is really good. I started out when I was looking at the a dad build version. I started out at 60. So we have refined it over the time of the PTS to get us to 17K more damage. And 77 damage is really good. That's really good. That's survivability damage. That's burning damage. I took this into, I said, to Devatron last night, and the bull on that thing like that, I just, Bucko Burr, took him out, and I survived very easily in there. So it's got a lot of great potential in here. So I'll give you one last look. You can look at this if you want to, jot it down or something. You can always pause it on the video. This is what we're looking at. This is why I like the combat metrics. You can see all the skills that I'm using. You can see the staff that I'm using, the traits, the enchantments, what I'm using, and what I've got for points into there. So as of now, and remember, this is just week 4 of PTS, which is pretty much about what's going to go live. They can make some final tweaks, but week 4 is kind of the, here, this is what we're really looking at to go with. So I think it's going to be the best dad build yet. It's a different kind. So I should say different in there because I love my Frostagon, which slows everything down and makes things like in the Matrix so that you can kill everything. And then you have my Fierygon, which is all about just throwing on the dots, because I love the dots. Throwing on the dots and just walking away and watching it burn. Which made it a little bit different for this one, because if I'm not hitting something with this, it's not dying. And like I said, I tweaked it a little bit by throwing in Scalding Rune, just to give me a little bit of dots, because I love dots. So this is definitely a flex spot in there. So yeah. So thank you very much for watching, and like I said, I'll make a more a final video coming up. But I wanted to get something out there because I was so excited about this. The dad builds are just getting better and better. This is very easy to get, a lot of fun, and it'll be able to do endgame stuff. Not maybe the hard modes and trifectas because everybody thinks endgame is used to do that, but definitely can get it and do use this in veteran runs of the trials and dungeons and solo and everything. And I was also going to mention, because I did switch out the Oaken Soul, which you might have from one of my other builds in there. Oaken Soul does a little bit less damage. It's actually not too bad. In there, it does maybe about 4,000 less damage, so it's kind of significant. But it gives you, we forget with Oaken Soul, it gives you things like Minor Resolve and Minor Intellect and all these little things that can kind of protect you a little bit and make you a little bit more stout and strong so that you can get through a lot of the solo stuff and arena stuff a little bit easier. So that's definitely is an option. So I really do think that you'll be able to work with Oaken Soul and with this the new amulet in this build and see what kind of works for you, and even flop flop it in and out situationally. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Bye.